Hi, this is Jason with Washington is Dying with Justin here. Once again, we're back on for another episode of Washington is Dying. And today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about and get started with Jay Inslee again. It looks like he brought in the National Guard to his little fraud mansion there. And so I really want to talk about what that is, how in Seattle they had the Summer of Love. And for 3 or 4 days there, he didn't act as if he knew what was going on. And that whole episode, in the end, we lost 200 police officers in Seattle in the end, and there's more to come from that. But yet when everybody showed up there and the gates in front of the mansion were accidentally left open, and then they were accidentally locked, and everybody came to his front door, and then after they all left, within 24 hours the next day, there's 714 or 740 National Guardsmen that he calls to protect his front door. But in Seattle, the whole city of Seattle is completely destroyed. Businesses are gone that have been there for 50 years or more. You go there, the only people there that are left in downtown Seattle in many places are criminals and drug addicts. And it's in chaos down there. He didn't do anything. He didn't call the National Guard when they were requested. And so what do you have to...
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and I was about 20 miles from downtown Chicago is where I grew up. And all of my family that lives in Chicago asks, they're all asking me, like, are you guys safe there in Seattle? Do you guys, and it's more, to me, it's more safe than Chicago, at least. That's kind of the murder capital of America right now, it seems. But it's just... it really is the hypocrisy of it all for him to allow for us to see what happened in Seattle was just a joke of America this past year. And it just now is just a trash pit. It's a toilet bowl to most of America. I mean, when I went back to Chicago 2 weeks ago, everybody talking about it, they think that this area is an absolute just trash hole. And along with Portland and Seattle, they're just labeled together. And a lot of it has to do with that Chaz Chop, whatever the crap was that they decided to start there. And the fact that our governor did nothing about it, Seattle's mayor did nothing about it. They just let it go, and that they literally started their own, kind of in a way, their autonomous zone, their own country in America. That we know if conservatives would have done that, it could only imagine what would have happened if the conservatives would have come in here and decided that we're just going to take a portion of Seattle, and it's now an autonomous zone. And about the only reason that they ever even shut it down is because there was a murder or two that happened, and then they finally shut it down. But I was watching a live video one night right after the murder happened, and some guy filming from his phone, and the Seattle police mounted outside of the Chaz area. And they brought in about 40 officers in a giant group. They were all together with barricades around. They all walked in together. People were screaming and yelling at them. And this is late at night, throwing stuff at the cops, telling them, get the F out of here. And they already had drugged the body, the people, not the police. The people had already drugged the body out, the guy that just got shot, and to go take him to a hospital. And it's just, it's just the whole thing has just been an absolute chaotic mess. And I still don't think myself Seattle's worse than Chicago. I think Chicago is the trash hole of America, more so. I think we've listened to another video. I think Seattle was somewhere near 50 murders or total last year, and Chicago averages that about every week, and which is just crazy. But still, the hypocrisy of Jay Inslee to protect his home. He's all about protecting his mansion that he lives in, but when it comes to his cities, where the largest populated city in Washington, and they do nothing about it to protect the people.
Well, what it is it's like political sports, right? And he's the referee, and his team's carried the ball, all year long. And so what happens is all summer long, the liberals and BLM and now Antifa, those are really people that are on his team, and he just let them run loose. He didn't do anything to control that, where all these small businesses were ran loose, and they were ran through, and their buildings were spray painted, their buildings were completely, destructed, and they were shut down. That whole area was shut down. There was businesses that were completely put out of business and closed down. There were people that there was deaths that happened in that district. and but then what happens is people go to his town where he's living now currently, and they enter his grounds, and loosely, it's not very well secured. There's pictures of state patrolmen that are there, and I don't want to have anything against that police organization, and that's not what this conversation is about in any way. But they just get right in, and there's other comments that are online about how in some ways they wanted this to happen or whoever, and I'm not going to get into that argument at all. But once again, as the referee, suddenly, oh, you're offsides quickly, within 8 hours. Oh, all they want to blame it on Trump, and then today he wants to raise or put the flags at half mast, and the way these liberals do, they all collaborate together, and they want to set this stage. And like I say, I call it the greatest show on earth, because all of these these liberals, what they do is they all collaborate together, and they all want to make it look like this huge scene and make it look like, oh, look at us, and oh, poor us, they came and they destroyed our little mansion and all this kind of stuff, and he gets exactly what he deserves, and he should not be in office. He has put his hand on the destruction of 6,000 businesses, and that is the biggest crime that's ever happened to the state of Washington. You look at 6,000 people that have started their businesses, and what happened that day is nothing in comparison to what happened all summer long when we turned on the news every single day, and the propaganda that this state is allowing. And now they're saying that they want to have the legislature session be online, is just incomprehensible. The way that they think they can retreat from the citizens of our state is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and with the crazy part, when you look at all the large cities across America, Miami, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, grab any large city like that, and you look, and they are Democrat cities. And these cities that they're massive ghettos. I mean, these people, I was talking to one of my coworkers today and just telling her about like when I used to work in the inner cities of Chicago, and how I was held up at gunpoint once, was robbed. And then I walked down a street and watched a shooting happen right in front of me in Chicago. And that, like, these are the people that cry about, I mean, you could jump on 100 different tangents here about the Black Lives Matter, all those sorts of things, but when they're killing each other, no one says anything. The number of black people killing each other in Chicago is sickening. It's horrific, and no one talks about it. And I don't say that as like some white nationalist trying to be some KK. I'm sickened and I'm saddened for Black America, because they are merely a pawn in this whole gamut of the Democrats. Really, they care about them if they can get their vote, and then they put them back in the ghettos for the next 4 years and don't care about them. They don't do anything to help them. And then there's massive shooting, massive gang murders, all these things that honestly we're not seeing in Seattle yet. And it's going to come. I guarantee you it's coming this way. And I've seen it firsthand. I've watched it firsthand, going in there with my church and trying to help out people in the inner cities. And these people are crying for help, and the government, they truly do not care, but yet they're Democrat controlled. All that they need is they need to promise them, hey, all those Republicans are racist, they're Nazis, they'll just throw all the words out. And then sadly, people believe it. And even Republicans are like, I don't want to be called to that, so I'll vote against Trump, or I'll vote against, I'll vote for Inslee because I don't want to be called a racist, when it's so far, literally they've turned the tables on us. And that's one of the scariest things I see in what's happening in our nation right now. Is people are literally scared of name calling, which I personally, I'm against bullying in schools, but I kind of think in a lot of ways bullying helps people prepare for real life. And when we've eliminated bullying from schools, which is good, but at the same time, these people don't know what it's like to then be bullied someday. And so then they've now flipped it, and people have turned the table on everything. And there's just mass confusion in our country right now because people don't know what to believe, whom to trust. And they're just name calling all over the place, and people don't know what to do. If somebody calls me a name, you're not allowed to call me a name. I was never called a name as a child. You weren't allowed to bully me. And it's like, so because they're called a name, they don't want to be called a name, they flip sides and they say, I believe this way now because that they said you're this. If you represent a Republican or you're a conservative, well, then you're a Nazi, and I don't want to be a Nazi, so I'm a Democrat now. It's like, how sad and how shallow we have become in America is really one of the scariest things, I think, of this next generation of the 20-somethings into my generation, the 30s, the 40s. It's just, it is pretty scary. And I don't know. I mean, I have hope, but at the same time, it's sad when you have people that will hail Jay Inslee as a hero after this is done.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the Republicans in our legislature, and they need to stand up and have a backbone. I know that there's a few things that I read today about a few of them, and one Democrat that that they've been wanting to get the businesses opened up, but just like we're very vocal about different things, on our Facebook page, and then we do our best to update the website, but they have to make a stand. I mean, they can't just talk about it. I mean, they have to literally say, this is how it's going to be. They got to do whatever they got to do. They are all attorneys or strong business owners, and they need to get the powers that are behind them too to say, this is what we're going to do, and this is the way it's going to be. It's like me. I go into to the grocery store. I go to different places, and I'm the only one that's not wearing a mask in those places. And then when I bring one of my kids with me too, they're the only kid in there too with me that aren't wearing a mask. And I am not going to fall for this. There's this one particular Safeway that is, I believe, probably one of the best. It is the best grocery store in our state, and I have so much respect for this place because they get you in, they get you out. When the manager comes up to me or says something to me and says, "Sir, can you put on your mask on?" Yeah, I will put my mask on. And it doesn't matter where it's at. And somebody asks me that, I will do that. But I don't believe in it, and he probably doesn't either. But I will do it in those moments. But when I look around this whole store and everybody just follows what they're, are doing, it is just incomprehensible to me. The way and everybody's following a guy like Jay Inslee. And it's just unbelievable. So.
Yeah. So,
but anyways, so. The other thing, and too, is I just want to kind of cover today, and in the short time that we have, is just I don't want to go into how Twitter and everything was shut off, how they shut Twitter off with Trump. The thing that I want to talk about is how Trump really helped Twitter, and really the hypocrisy of it is that, if you guys recall, Twitter was really about 5 years ago. If you do some research on it, Twitter wasn't really doing well. They went through some changes with the Dorsey, the goofy looking guy with his beard. Their finances and stuff wasn't doing well. They weren't really as popular. They had their real popularity many years before that. But what happened is Trump was really the one that kind of brought their sensation back. And so they kind of forgot where they kind of come from, really, because Trump is the one that really brought Twitter back in many ways, brought the sensation of Twitter back. And so, and as he kept, tweeting and bringing it back. See, I don't use Twitter. I hate Twitter. I've never have liked Twitter. But hey, it is what it is. And even when we try to mask some of their stories or looking them up, it's hard to copy it and paste it and always puts a bird up on it. My favorite tweet that I've ever seen is the one that has like a sickle of the Soviet Union on it, because that's really what it is. But really, and now it's just ironic to me that they block him, they block the guy that probably made him more money than anybody. So that's pretty much my 2 cents on the whole topic.
I don't see Twitter lasting all that long. I mean,
the shares dropped, I think it was 12 or 14% today.
No, it's just, yeah, as far as Twitter goes, I mean, I was part of it about 5 years ago for about a month, and I thought it was a pretty lame platform to begin with. And it seems a little bit like a mix of Instagram and Facebook. And I don't see the point in just one more social media platform, one more thing I need to keep track of. So I'm an Instagram guy. I'm 90% of the time I'm there, and like 10% I'm on Facebook here or there. I mean, everybody's different. But it's just, I don't know. I don't see Twitter lasting long. And I mean, you said something about it. Their shares had dropped, like what, 10 cents or something?
No. It was like 12 to 14%.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I was thinking 10 cents. I was like, it's somewhat significant, but that's a huge percentage. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, I think Trump is the one who let Twitter be who it is, in their last 4 years. And after this all dies out and these next 4 years, I only see it just completely plummeting. Mm-hmm. And Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat for the younger generation will probably be the top three still and maintain that. And we'll see. But I don't, that whole Twitter thing is just a joke. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other topic really to go over today is capitalism, and that's what what makes America great, is capitalism, and you look at the companies like Facebook and Twitter, and Google, and then you look at the role of like China or however, and you look at these people and you think of Zuckerberg and. I don't know if you saw the movie about him and the people he went to college with and how he stole that idea. And the reason he stole that idea is because deep down in his heart, he understands how capitalism works. And you want to get rich and get power and all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting about capitalism is that these guys all use capitalism to get rich and get the big house and the Miami Beach house and the big cigarette jet boat out there and to get multiple houses in Hawaii and in Florida and at Lake Tahoe and all over the world, right? And in the Alps and be friends with the George Clooney and all the people that I could care less of ever knowing or meeting in my life. But then what they end up doing then is but then they turn into these socialists and communists that one day then turn the lights out on other people's businesses, you look at a guy like Bill Gates, and what I always thought was funny about that guy is that he has all this money and he buys all these computers in Africa. And it's like, well, you got so much money. Why don't you just like buy about 2,000 track hose and dig some long trenches out to the Indian Ocean and bring some water into those poor African kids. What do they need computers and Wi-Fi for, And so, you got the Indians from Asia, India that are in there, and they're the ones that are pillaging Ethiopia and all those areas, for all the irrigation, with all the farming and all the different stuff that's going down there. And why don't you, do something a little bit different with all your money? But what they do with all of these, with their wealth, is they completely go against, and they want to steal elections, and basically cut off, kind of the economy of what's going on with stuff, and mm-hmm. with Google and they turn off, like Forbes magazine, for example. Steve Forbes, I was reading how they sold their magazine. It's not owned anymore by conservatives. China owns that, so when they all are selling out America. And, we did a post about that just the other day. And so, you look at Google and stuff like that. It's just they don't believe in, the liberals and the Democrats don't believe as much in what really got them where they're at.
Yeah, that's one of the. I'm all for capitalism. I mean, I'm mm-hmm. American as it comes, but that's a problem we're seeing now is where these massive. I mean, we've built monsters now in this country that are now controlling everything. We've seen even this last week, just how much that they truly control with Parler, and how Google, Amazon, Apple, everybody has completely shut one specific conservative-based company out, and and they'll label it as, I forgot, the radical conservatives, or they have words for it. The people that are on Parler but they've, again, labeled, first off, is just, that's kind of the method, is they label, and everybody, and then they're able to shut you off as long as they can put a label on you. And what we're seeing over and over again is just there's that they'll label you first. As long as they can keep and maintain that label and scare everybody with the label, then they'll shut you down with it. And then they will claim, Twitter and Facebook and all these companies will claim, well, we are private companies, so we can shut someone down. We can shut the right to free speech down because we're a private company. You can't tell us what to do. Okay, and that's fine. If that is the case, well, all these private companies, now I'm totally switching kind of back to the original topic with Jay Inslee. If we're going to allow that to be the case, well, then all of these private companies that we've shut down this year, 6,000 businesses, should be allowed to stay open because they're private companies. It's the whole hypocrisy we see over and over again. Look at it
this way. So Alexander Graham Bell at one point, they were the biggest company back in the day, right? And everybody freaked out because they were so big. And so then they all wanted them to be, broken up, right? Well, let me tell you, Google's bigger than them, and so is Twitter, and so is Facebook. And they have more power than they ever did. And all three of those all work together to steal this election. And then that's where the Ma Bell got broken up into, U.S. West, Atlantic Bell, Southern Bell, and I can't remember what the five were. And so let me tell you that these guys and what they're doing is as crooked as can be. And so it's time that they're federally regulated. And then you look at AT&T, who's $200 billion in debt, and they own CNN, and you're trying to tell me that they're so big. Alexander Graham Bell, I don't know all the history on him, but I don't believe he owned the most liberal news media that has Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, who are on the news every day attacking conservatives and the president of the United States every day. It's the most corrupt thing that I've ever seen, that could possibly see. So, but then you got all the entrepreneurs and the conservatives that are, capitalists, and, Democrats are as well. I mean, hopefully, there's some out there that then have a chance to make money. That when these are all broken up, all the other social media companies that could be out there, all the other pay-per-click companies and advertising and marketing companies that are out there that could pick up revenue when Alexander Graham Bell are out there, when Twitter, when the news media, when Fox and all that are picked up, because Disney, don't forget, owns ABC, and Walt Disney was a very conservative person. And so when they all need to be broken. It's the biggest thing. I mean, there's just so much going on. Yeah. Disney's don't forget, is partners with China and Shanghai and Disneyland over there, and it's a very successful park over there. So China is got us in a stranglehold that is just incomprehensible. So
yeah, I think along those lines, just what I saw a comment recently in the last day or two, and somebody said what you're seeing right now is a digital book burning. And what they meant was, relating it back to the Nazi Germany, that was the thing. They destroyed history, they destroyed books, they burned them, and that was well-known fact that things were, they would burn books publicly, and we don't, everyone's kind of said, well, everything's digital nowadays, you don't have to worry about that. You got it on your phone, you got it on the internet, you got it on social media and all that. We saw that this week. How quickly did they burn Parler? And I mean, where does it stop though? Like, it's just how quick. So they have labeled them as a whatever the group is at this point. But where are we going? Where is this going to stop? At what level? I mean, I'm a Christian, so what if they shut down every single Bible app on Amazon, on Apple, on all of that? Like, literally, that's a digital book burning that they've already started. We've already tried to destroy every statue, basically, that for every person in history. And they label, even Abraham Lincoln. I got in a debate with somebody about him, how he was a racist and all this kind of stuff, and he wasn't doing the Civil War for. It had nothing to do with race at all, and he was a racist himself. And I was just like, you can't rationalize with a lot of these people anymore, because even what's being taught in these schools now is just so beyond it. They're burning history, they're burning digitally everything that we are, and it's just there's too much power. And like you said, federal regulation on the size, on the scope, on the what they can't do, all those sorts of things. I mean, it's just, at what point is Facebook, Google is controlling literally America, controlling the world. It's incredible the power that these companies have, and it's scary. Unless somebody does something, because for whatever reason, conservatives aren't the ones that are, hosting massive servers and starting big companies like that that can control. And I mean, maybe Donald Trump will, with his money, do something along that line. But the fact that you're limited to what you can download on Apple, on Google, on what you can see on Google, who hosts your server for your website, like Parler. I mean, all of those, we saw in one day how quickly that on-off switch, and all of those companies get together like they did. They all get together and label, and then they throw them out and to the wolves. And Parler, unless they figure out something really quick, they're gone. Like they got to figure out something. And even when they do, almost all of our phones are Apple, Android phones, and you're not getting it on your phone. You'll get it on the internet, and shoot, they'll start figuring out a way to regulate that eventually. So.
Well, that brings up a good point, and pretty much the end of our show today. And, if you think different, you'll be deleted, And so this is Jason and Justin from Washington is Dying, and thanks for joining in and watching our show today. And so we appreciate if you could share and, like our page and share our page to other people so we can keep getting the message out. And you can always go to WashingtonIsDying.com to always keep up with us too if anything ever happens to our Facebook page. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.